Hello and welcome to Yappin with Yanna. We have with us today one of our faves, Chelsea Maria.
Hey y'all.
This episode of Yappin with Yanna is in dedication to our second year anniversary,
Mhm.
celebrating with Bourbon Street Bookers, which I'm so excited about.
That
So the
is
theme is
good.
cute, and this is our second time with Chelsea. And it's me, your host, Ayana. Hey guys. I'm so glad you guys are joining us. And I'm so excited today. Chelsea is one of my favorites. I want to say I was introduced to her catalog maybe 2 years ago. And she wowed me with her unique style of writing. I was actually at the time in education uh, for the first time working with children and people with special needs. And
Mhm.
Chelsea's writing just jumped out at me because it was like, oh, I love this. I love the concept where she's saying, listen, there's no difference. You can still be loved in your uniqueness. And oh my gosh, she just wowed me. Then she brought these brothers. If y'all have heard now, let me stop here because before the brothers, there was Pacino. I wasn't really a fan of Pacino, but Allegra was.
Oh,
That's
she loves her
a
some
that
Pacino.
Allegra loves him. So you bring in the Coleman brothers. Atlas didn't really do it for me, but when you got to Cass, that fool, that fool and Keisha, and it's so funny because we have this ongoing thing. I don't know if you ever watch Tyler Perry's movie when your girl's like, it was Keisha, huh? It's Keisha. So
Yeah.
we have this ongoing thing where we'll say, yeah, he with Keisha. So then there's that. And then you got Emil. Emil touched my spirit. And if you are a fan of Bourbon Street Bookers and you're in the love and low, you know Sean Chadwick is
hmm
the claimer. Just like I am behind my bae, that's how she is behind Emil. And we let her have it because Sean and I rap too tight. So we ain't fighting Sean. But now she's trying to claim everybody. Here comes Quincy. Here comes Quest. And I want to say last month, maybe the month before, Chelsea brought us Changing Seasons.
hmm
And there were several books that led us to where we are now with Lost in London, with London Nicole Carter. And we've learned a lot about her brother, relationship. But this book told us some truths that certainly gave us insight as to why London was presented the way she was. Because I won't even say the way she was. I refuse to identify her by the flaws other people saw.
hmm
But the way she was described in those other books, and somebody was like, she was the bratty one. And I was like, you thought so? I thought she was just who she was within her own
Right.
right for her age, right? I didn't think anything of it until we got into the bonfire, the sisterhood
hmm
situation, and we were left off. And it's like, no, Chelsea not gonna just say that, drop that ball, and keep no. So, like I say, I'm a big fan. I have read every book of this series, and I am fully up to date on what's going on. Chelsea. I am so thrilled and excited to have your pen back. You
Me too. Listen, man.
you wow me. You wow me because you write with such passion, such conviction. Um,
Mhm.
I definitely saw your growth
Thank you.
from where you started to where you are. I'm like, go ahead, Chelsea, take your seat, bug, give your flowers, because girl, you did this, I have been privileged and blessed several. books now to be an ARC reader for Chelsea. And listen, if you know me, you know how hard it is not to talk to somebody while I'm reading because I got something to say. And the whole time, Allegra had a really, really, really busy. She's really had a busy month these last few months, and so this was one she wasn't able to touch yet. And I'm all in her. I was like, "Girl, tell me you finished reading." she, she hates spoilers, whereas I love them. So Chelsea, first of all, tell us about the frame of mind you had to be in order to write this book.
Mm. This book, ooh, I don't even. This book was very hard to write. Um, One, I can definitely say it came from a personal experience of one of being several women that I know personally. And when you get permission to write their stories, you want to do it in a way to where you're giving justice, not just for entertainment purposes, but for their true emotion and what they went through. So I started the book in January. I was like, okay, I'm gonna release it at the top of the year because I left y'all hanging at the end of after we burned. People want to know what's the London story. The minute I sat down and I wrote the prologue, after I finished the prologue, my mind shut off. Shut off. Yes, it shut off. And for me, that usually doesn't happen until I'm done with the book. So I'm like, why is my brain like, God, what you trying to tell me? And it was so hard to tap back into her character because God had to do a lot of heart transplant work in me first to be able to tell the story how he wanted me to. And that also led to me writing Changing Seasons because Changing Seasons to me was like a love letter to myself of remember who you are, remember who God created you to be, remember your power and all this. So I was able to kind of like, okay, I'm good now. So I released Changing Seasons. Literally after I released Changing Seasons, the full story for London came back. And it was amazing to me because I'm like, okay, for the last couple of months, my brain's been shut off. I wrote that heavy prologue and it was just done. And I thought that was it. Like I thought, wow, okay, I'm not gonna be able to finish the book. But placing myself in London's shoes, it was so hard, Ayana. Like I had to take a break after I write a book. And I usually don't try to take a break because I'm like, okay, let me just go on to the next story. But her journey was so like real. It was women I knew. It was and to actually see it unfold the way it did, like I'm crying and writing. It was hard. I have to put myself in these spaces to give her pain a voice. That was hard. That was so hard. And it was emotionally draining. Um, I would definitely say coming out of it was the hardest because how do you let go of all that trauma and move on? And even though she had a happily ever after, I'm stuck with all these emotions because I just wrote this book and it's just like, even now, I'm still like, I have to be in this. I'm like, I keep praying every day because I'm like, well, I need you to release me from these emotions because Dove is opposite of London. Same story, but different. So to answer your question, I'm still feeling it. Like
Mm.
I'm still emoting. That's why like my presence on social media has not been heavy because it's hard. Like especially um, the messages I've gotten from women who have read the book and how it's been so relatable, and to know that this was actually somebody's story, like it literally like kind of unnerves me, but also empowers me because
Oh
it's
yeah.
like I did her justice.
That's the word. That's the word right there. Empowered.
Yeah,
Empowered. Would you describe London as healed at this point? Or would you say she's still healing?
I would say she's still healing. She's a whole lot better than where we first saw her. Because when we first were, when the book first started, she was heavily burdened down. Like she was literally on the verge of taking her life, literally. So I think with Casey and with Quincy did, they literally like spoke life into her in different ways. Spoke life into her as a friend, spoke life into her as a lover, reminded her like you were born for a purpose. Like,
Mm.
don't let the past define who you are going forward. And she has a huge circle around her. It's not huge, but they're huge in power. Their numbers are small, but they're big as far as them rallying together to give her life. Like, they're not going to let her drown. They're not going to let her go back under. Like, they're praying for her. Like, class praying for her right in the middle of a conversation on a
Right in
FaceTime.
the middle.
In the middle.
There's
And
a couple
she's
of
healing.
things that really sat with me from one Christian to another. Um, I love how you spill Christ into every aspect of the
Mm-hmm.
word. You remind us constantly of the walk and the purpose that we have as individuals. When you speak about empowering, there's some women out here, you and Nico are two authors that I will say proudly stand and proclaim and declare the word of God. And it reaches, to me, that within itself is very purposeful. Like I
Mm-hmm.
said, as a Christian woman, it is something that we definitely need to be reminded of. And this is one of those where you say in everything that you do, give God the glory. Make sure he gets it. And that's what you guys are doing. So that first and foremost. And I love especially when you're making it poor, not just from the woman, but from the perspective of a man, right? Because it helped us to redefine what it is that we should want from a man
Mm-hmm.
before we want anything else. A lot of women say, oh, I end up finding my daddy and his man. Well, let's not focus on our earthly fathers, but our heavenly father,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Right.
So that one, first and foremost. And then you took and put London in a place where not only could she receive help in her healing, but she was a part of someone else's healing with
Mm-hmm.
Cass. And that spoke volumes without it being intimacy, without there being intimacy. And that's
Mm-hmm.
so unique because it's like typically we always connect in our body, on a sexually level to reach other people. But that because I was really, really waiting to see how the hell is working out. Why is she sleeping in the same bedroom? Remember when I jumped in your inbox? I was like, wait a minute.
Right.
How is this not intimate, but they're in the same bed? So the way they uniquely designed this bed, because as rich as they are, I mean, they can afford to, but it put them in a place. And I found that to be gratifying, awarding, but confusing, especially when there were children involved, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because it was like, I know if I was a kid and my parents' door is closed, but they're coming
Mm-hmm.
out the same room, they're dating. I'm not seeing that as that's his homegirl,
Right.
that's his little sister. Because surely we
Right.
don't do that. But his protective nature, even when he clapped back at his sister-in-law, it's like, mind your goddamn business, like he would his protective and look, after Holani put him through, I'm
Oof, child.
we call her what her name is, Lolani, but I'm gonna call that Holani. After she put him what she put him through, I love too that you did not make him exempt to feeling hurt and pain. Because it's a
Mm-hmm.
reality. Your
Right.
books are so realistic. And I always say there's truth in fiction.
Exactly.
There is truth in fiction. But again, your pen has purpose. It provided healing because I too got, as I was reading it, some of my sisters that I prayed with, I was like, listen, I can't tell you nothing about this book, but when you finish, you're going to love this book. And they reached out to you and they were like, oh my, they had to take breaks after reading it. I was
Mm-hmm.
celebrating. There is nothing more rewarding than knowing not only did this book give spiritual insight, but you can see your spiritual growth. There was a God dealt with you.
Ooh, girl. I mean, God is still doing me, but for like the last 2 years, and like I moved to Texas and then coming back home and just I question so much about like my life and my purpose because I'm like, God, what journey are you taking me on? Because it felt so like I was literally in a season of chaos. Like I'm like, what is going on in like my life? It was just having to be stripped of everything.
Mm,
And I mean everything to where literally I can only sit here and look at you and tell you I am only here by the grace of God.
mm.
Like to literally say like God literally had to strip me of everything. So I fully understand what it means to fully trust in him.
Mm. Ah,
Because if I can trust in him in my darkest, when I mean my darkest season, and I can sit here and stare and say, like, but God,
but God,
it shifted like it shifted so much in me to now like where I used to be afraid of writing certain things or I used to be afraid of just doing certain things in life because I was just afraid. When God literally has that time with you where he like literally stripped you to rebuild you into the image he has created, like the one he had in mind, he created you. It's growing pains, but man, it's a journey. Like I have shed many tears. I have, reached out to you and told you, like, girl, this is hard. This
weeping may endure for the night. Whew, with joy,
and I understand that now, like how weeping may
with
endure for a night,
joy.
but joy cometh in the morning. I
Come
remember
on,
just telling my best friend like 2 weeks ago, I was like, I've never been happy like this. I was like, nothing has happened. It's just like the joy
the
that I
joy,
have in my heart right now.
but God, come on.
Yeah. And it's just,
Yes,
and I can't help but share that because I'm like, romance, yes, is nice, but I one of those, like, I want the romance that I can relate to because
that
life
part,
is hard.
that part.
Like, okay, y'all fell in love, but what was y'all like journey like? Because I'm
What
one
was
of those, like, I don't want to know.
You just hit it on the head. So many people see right here, right now, the intimacy, the love, the woo lie, the woo woo woo.
Mm-hmm.
But you have no idea the journey that it took to get there. And what I see you doing now is I'm instead of me working on the back end where the problem's gonna start coming, I'm putting him right in the front where he belongs and let him bring it all to me forefront. And Chelsea, I think you and I connect for so many reasons, but one just again transparency moment. I too have been on a faith journey and I still am. Literally June 9th, I picked up and moved from New Orleans to Houston. And I am here and I actually had to step out on faith and have God to order my steps. My plan, my plan was to continue working at my job, right? And I keep saying that my plan. I had it all mapped out. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna get a little, online job. That's
Mm-hmm.
me, this planning it out. Child. Well, God said, no, you're gonna spend some time with me. And that's exactly what happened. These last 5, almost 6 months, I have spent so much time, one-on-one time with God. And I'm saying all of this because that's exactly what I saw London doing, that
Mm-hmm.
one-on-one time. Her obedience. God was so specific and intentional with her journey,
Mm-hmm.
with her suffering. And he showed her it had purpose. Even our pain, it has purpose. And although things are not what we had planned, what we anticipated, but every aspect is intentional and purposeful to give him glory, to basically serve his purpose. And it's not pretty.
It is not. Listen, let me tell
It's
you,
not
like,
convenient. It's
it
not
is not
pretty.
pretty. We go through to help pull somebody else out. And that's one of the toughest things. Like when you realize like your pain is not for you, like in a sense, like it's not just singular to you, it's you gotta help somebody else come out of this now. That's the hard part of knowing that
That is.
somebody else is sitting in my seat and now I gotta help pull them out. And And the thing with London, and the one thing that I really did want to do, because I know like I really do focus a lot on therapy in my books. I didn't do that with London.
You sure? You certainly didn't. You did not. That was really interesting because even with Coco, with all that she went through on it back in, and
Mm-hmm.
just knowing the characters and what they offer, who they are, that too spoke volumes about the expectation, or yeah, I'm gonna use the word expectation. Sometimes you get to a point where you know an author's style and their writing, that there is a certain level of expectation, but that's the beauty of it because it's not what you think it'll be, but it's better. It's better. And that's what you gave them. To see, I was so disappointed that I was disappointed in Landon, but I was more
Mm-hmm.
disappointed in Andrea. I thought for sure the way she had to deal with uh Andre's previous boo that caused all that havoc, right? I thought for sure she would speak and out I'm not going to say against, but against Landon for one, but even more so, more to London. But that wasn't her journey either.
Mm-mm.
That wasn't God's intent for her, and that's what I love about Andrea, Emil, and now Quest, and even
Quest.
Quincy.
Yes.
Oh my God. You talk about some beautiful men she didn't create, y'all. These are real book babes. Y'all know how much I love Ezra. Ezra gonna probably invite them out to lunch one day or something. Because
Right. They need to have a sit down and just, talk about the church, talk about a whole nother revival or something.
oh girl, put it in play. Put it in play. Because me and Bae
Right.
coming. We coming. Girl, I just, girl, you leave me speechless. Because so many times I read your work. Um, to know that Dove and Quest are going to get their story, which I couldn't imagine there not being opportunity for that story to be told because there was so many holes that you're sitting there like, hmm. But the fact that these men are sensitive, spiritually sensitive, and the man that they were raised by, he too, and his family, his history, but the way he's allowed this woman, they raggedy ass men, to run over him. I know that's got to be disappointing. And in our flesh, we're sitting there judging, right? Like Quincy and
Right.
Quest are doing, they're judging. But this man who raised them to be who they are, to honor God, to understand their place as a man in a woman's life, right? It's got to be baffling. It's got to be confusing. One of those do as I say, not as I do.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And
And
as
especially
I know,
when
with my rebellious spirit, I couldn't connect. I couldn't understand because it's like,
the whole reason for me doing that is because I didn't realize what I was doing literally until after, because I even questioned like, God, why did we do that? Like, why did we make him like that? And it had like I got the vision clear as day because that would have been Casey. Like that literally would have been Casey and how he, granted Casey is a little bit more, alpha male compared to the father, but it's no different than what Nolani was doing. She was running all over him in a
mm,
sense, like
mm,
especially when it came to the kids.
especially.
His focus was more so the kids. When it came to the kids, Casey was cool. Same thing with the daddy. He raised his sons to be even more stronger than him, to where not even your eldest son, but your second eldest son, because Quest is the second eldest, has more authority in your house than you do.
Mm,
Now, I'm not saying Casey would have did that, but I'm just saying the dynamics of their relationship, and especially where not Nolani was trying to go. If they would have continued, she wanted power. Casey wanted the family.
mm-hmm.
So that's, I was like, so this is what he would have looked like. Okay, I get it. it's not on the same level, but it kind of makes sense. Like,
Right. It's
okay,
not on the same level because Holani was on a whole betrayal. I
yeah, she
mean,
was on a whole
even to
different
the point where
thing.
this heifer used this man when her true loyalty and love and infatuation was with her brother. Like,
Yeah,
I couldn't stand that heifer. I was so proud
yeah.
of Ashton. That's when he was already my favorite, but when he took his
Well,
mom,
young Cashin, he has a grip on my heart because I've been giving glimpses of his story, and I write it down every time God shows me. And his journey is it's not a dark one. It's really not. And in the exchange he had with Quest, and I don't even know the exchange. I just know that's what happened. It was just like one of those. Okay, right now he's under the mentorship of Bishop and Amir. He's good, but like Quest is a force here, so it's kind of like I see the pain you have. Like you hold a grudge against your father. You need to
mm-hmm.
release all that. I know for you to heal. And that's kind of the conversation that they had. Like he told him, like basically, you got misplaced anger. Like it's time for you to start healing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and Quest and Emil, believe it or not, are very good friends, like very good friends. He's the
Oh, it's
godfather of his
very
children.
obvious. It's very
Yes, he doesn't come around a lot because again, he has to get the foresight. He has seen things about Emil's children that he just stays away from, which I get more into, with their book. But that's just, you have literally a power versus power moment with Emil and them in their book, and I love Emil. He will always be like, but I
his
have
spiritual
Quincy.
wisdom. I
Yes.
love that you even identify their spiritual gifts, right? Specifically in their ability to be there to recognize, but not necessarily to prevent, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because even in their own ways, it's as if you're saying, God's will be done. Just like,
Mm-hmm.
when we think about Christ, we think and we know and we identify and understand that things had to happen. His suffering had to happen, and we're not exempt. And
Right.
that's kind of where I put myself at when I start thinking about the things that I'm going through. Saying, who am I to not experience these things,
Mm-hmm.
right? So that within itself, like I said, identifying their spiritual gifts. And let me say this. It is so obvious that you two are being obedient, just like London, because there's so many authors out here. It's as if they want to tap that spiritual side, but then you have these holier than thou Christian. Oh, you don't put that in the book and da, 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 da. You need to write a Christian book. It needs to
Mm-hmm.
be. They want to put you in a box. But I know as a Christian, it is our job. My pastor speaks on this all the time. You got to reach people where they at.
Hello. That's my whole thing.
You got
I'm,
to
I'm,
reach
I'm
them
not
where
a
they
preacher in
at.
the pulpit. My pulpit is my book. I got to
That's
reach where
it.
they're at.
That's it. You got to reach
Yeah.
people where they're at because the reality is, and not necessarily to identify anybody as sinners, but those who may need the word and never had it, or never found
Mm-hmm.
any sufficiency in what they were getting from wherever they're getting from. We create a community of prayer warriors right here within our literary community.
Hello.
And we can reach so much further than some of the people in the pulpit because the hypocritical, behavior and everything else that conflicts with the message they're trying to deliver. But when you stand on your gift, your abilities, your talent, and you write books like this, and this ain't no novella. I'm letting y'all know now, my sister. This ain't no novella. I love holding. I cannot wait to actually, first off, embrace you with a hug because
I
we've
know
been
it's well overdue.
we are long overdue. So that number one. Two, for your books to grace my bookshelf, that will be such an honor.
Yeah.
I am so ready for that. But oh my, just to touch these books and to know their purpose, to know the story, and to know there's more unfolding that's coming. Um, then we talk about Emil, and see, Emil was like, drop the bomb. That we didn't know where
Mm-hmm.
he was going with that. Because the way him and Cass we're always going at it. Once you learn their story and their youth and his ability, which is what he's doing with Cass, to nurture even and protect, but to have that spiritual covering and doing all of that. That's amazing. That's amazing. And God didn't hold anything back from them. That too is another thing you recognize, despite their sometimes need to be violent. And I'm gonna use the word
Mm-hmm.
need because they're in survival mode, right?
Mm-hmm.
So their need to be uh violent. God still doesn't withhold from them to give them and gift them these abilities. And see, when Emil spoke to Cass and told him about cleaning up, he basically used the story about the grass, right?
Right.
He told, look at Atlas grass, look at your grass.
Yes.
And I see Quest having that same authority in his family. It's like anytime his mama don't
Oh,
respect
his
her,
mama.
but
She's
her
like this close. I'm getting kicked in that piranha pond.
baby, whoo, because I and then that part with Cass, which I forgot that that's what he used to do to go ahead and release some of that energy that are fighting, right?
Yeah.
Quest told him, oh, you healed pretty well.
Right. He was fighting, Quest.
Oh
Like you
my
thought that
God.
you can somewhat beat a veil, that you can beat Quest, and he's bigger than him.
I love London's connection and friendship with Luna.
Uh, oh, Luma.
Oh, Luna is right. My poor Luna, because I was like, she had my empathy with regards to her and her mom's relationship.
Mm-hmm.
But now that she has her boo, I ain't gonna lie, I was sitting there like, Luna, what the hell are you doing? What what are you doing?
He's doing way too much. And I know a lot of people, they was like, well, how come he didn't turn it into a teaching moment? I was like, because right then and there, it was protection mode. Like you just caused a whole,
War.
yeah, like it happened because you're trying to again sit on a seat that was never meant for you to sit on.
Never. Never.
Luna wants power. She wants to sit on the throne with her father.
I
We can
you
see
know,
that.
I look at Luna and I see like a longing for a love that she never felt she got.
With
And
mm-hmm.
and she's trying to find her place and thinking if instead of focusing on the father that she should be trying to please, she's trying to create within the realm of the world that he lives in her own place to find acceptance and validation.
Mm-hmm.
So, and because it ain't working with a mama, you know, it.
No.
I hated that they,
Yeah.
Harm Capone and say his name,
Pacino.
Pacino, are gonna go through. I hate that, but again, that's another story that I'm truly looking forward to having unravel. Because I like how Capone just shut it down. She's like, and I ask me the question.
Yeah. I'm happy, and I've said this before, like when it came to writing Pacino and Capone first story, that was my first time writing urban. So now that, I've done it, since then, and I've kind of created my own lane on how I write my urbans and stuff like that, I definitely want to go back. Okay, I want to give them the story that I know I can now give. And, um, you know, they're married and they're going to go through something. They may get divorced, but who says they won't come back? It's just, it's a lot happening in the Common's world and the Luciano's world to where, like, I'm even digging back to, pulling the history of Mitch and them because I'm about to literally shake up the world again, but in good sense because I'm setting it up for the kids. Because when I do end this series, the In Seeking Retrust series, it will end with Casey and his book. Um, of course, he deserves a redemption like no other. He will have that.
Oh, girl, you gonna have
But
to
it
create somebody. Ooh, you got your
listen,
work cut out for you to create
yeah, because
somebody to
she
match
can't just
him.
be, yeah, she got to match his energy, and yeah, and I kind of went, and I was like, no, with Casey, his got to kind of wait a little bit, and I don't mean that as far as like me just trying to create this female character that I can meet. It's just he has a lot of healing to do, and we
I
still
was
saw
getting
that
ready to
in the
say that.
book.
He definitely has a lot of healing to do, and his children need more of him right now, more
Yeah,
than anything. Ty and Millie, they really need more, but even more so Cash.
yeah. So his focus is literally himself and his children, and that's okay because we saw where Casey was, and
Yeah.
we literally saw how he literally went through the whole abandonment thing again when London, decided to fully date Quincy. That hurt him because, but at the same time, they kind of set each other up because look how
Yeah.
y'all were so codependent on each other.
They
Like
didn't
this
make
woman
an
was
exit
sleeping next
plan.
to you.
They didn't make an
Yeah,
exit plan.
right. Like
The
it.
expectation was, as long as you're comfortable, and a lot of people was like, misery loves company, but I think, like you said, the codependency had them not prepared
Mm-mm.
for what was to come, you know, and London even said, I thought it was gonna be me who was gonna, be acting an ass. But see, when he turned them babies against him, girl.
Yeah. Listen, but what I did love was when Quincy went and checked him about that, and he broke it down and how he didn't even know Casey in the story, but just that one conversation. It's like I can see the abandonment from every woman in your life, and you're literally trying to put that on London. I mean London, and that's just not
Ooh,
fair.
listen, the fact that, first of all, he told him there ain't a man walking the face of this earth that will put sincere fear in me. Okay, that's number one. So you can go on with all that foolishness. That's number one. But even more so, in the manner in which he approached him, right, as a protector of London, but
Mm-hmm.
more so with a lot of reverence,
Mm-hmm.
because he was also a protector of Cass because of the connection of him in London. So he made sure he approached him, giving a lot of grace to make sure he understood. I am coming to you. You made some declarations about protecting her, but what am just like Soul Food, that moment when the little boy tells his daddy, but what am I supposed to do? You taught me how to protect her from everybody else, but what happens
Mm-hmm.
when it's you I need to protect her from?
Right.
And that moment, that moment gave him a lot of clarity too, a lot of insight, because he couldn't deny, well, dang, you know, I got so wrapped up in what my hurt was, what my feeling was. Good, thank God the older kids had enough sense to
Mm-hmm.
know it ain't like that. It ain't like that. Be
Right.
happy for the girl. She got a good one. I mean, Quincy, you had to dig deep in the barrel to create that thing. Quincy Reed. Oh, Jesus. I thought
Listen.
Paxton was all that. Come on, Quincy. But when he talked to London in in the book and Changing Seasons, when he just Quincy's aura, his demand,
Mm-hmm.
waiting on his love for his brother, for Quest. He
Mm-hmm.
adores Quest.
He
And I
does.
thought Quincy was powerful. I was like, well, damn, come on, Quest.
Mm-mm. No. And I love like okay, like when I create these men, they're so strong and especially spiritually. It's like okay, going back to like when I created a meal, I created a meal literally by reading Psalms and Proverbs.
Mm.
That's how I created his character.
Come on,
David, hello, David. There we go, David and Solomon.
girl.
That's literally how I created his character. The same thing like request and I never forget like when I was getting ready to write the story and especially like the men, especially right now with Quest, you know, I'm praying because I pray over my characters because I'm like, okay, what's their story? I'm like, I'm always okay. What's the solution in this book? Like, what's the purpose of this book?
Mm,
Like who is this book for? So I'm
mm,
praying, and God would answer me. And literally, what Quest is like writing a vision and making it plain. And I'm like, okay, well, you know, is this like like me writing a vision of my man and making it plain? And
mm.
but it goes into because then that's when I started having conversations like with my friends and dating and stuff and how okay, we got to be intentional
Very
about
much
what we
so.
pray for because you
Very
can't
much.
just pray, God, send me a husband. He gonna
Don't
send you a
start.
husband.
Don't don't get me started, girl.
Listen, so that's why when it came to Quest, I was like, okay, him and Quincy are kind of like write the vision, make it plain for me. And that's literally what it is. Like, especially when it comes to the faith part and with London. He prayed over her. He didn't care. He was bold with it. He literally, told this girl, you see my garden. You see what I can do with my hands. You see what God has gifted with. I will provide you with soil for you to flourish in your calling. Like, who does not want
Come
that?
on,
And
parable.
like,
Come on, parable. I was like, when he brought her to his house to
mm-hmm.
witness his
And he didn't
daughter,
even understand why
he didn't
at
even
first.
understand. I I just, girl, listen. Let me tell y'all. As ARC readers, we read as PDF, right? So you can't highlight. But baby, when I got back to the book, when the book released, there was so much. And that's why I knew it was going to be a reread for me because there was so much that I needed, It was like, yeah, I gotta have this. I gotta have this. And that there is so much that you get from these men. And I'm glad you told me how a meal came to be.
Mm-hmm.
But here's another question. Have you experienced any men in your life that have inspired or that speaks anywhere near to the character of these men that you're writing
Um, my uncle will probably be the only one, and um, my uncle BJ, which he died this year, which is crazy, but seeing
about?
how the workings of how this story, well, not just theirs, but just the other stories I'm writing, but his story and the way his wisdom, especially came when it came spiritually, it was literally on a level of a myth. His wisdom, if not more, probably more than that. His journey, going back to one of those where, like, okay, he was a hustler. He was in the military, so we can pull that out. Quest is in the military. He was a hustler. A million were hustlers, and how he took all that, and now he was this man of God. He was a pastor of our church, bishop. There we go. And I've literally used my uncle to pull so many different like things because his strength and everything was just like amazing to me. But he would keep it real with you. But at the same time, he's going to like build you up in God so much to where you're like, oh, he just preached to me. But it was in a way that touched your soul, and you was like he nurtured this, like he planted seeds and he nurtured all in the same token. So yes, my late uncle BJ, that was him. Like he was,
Was he married?
yes, and my aunt. And like to me, like their love was just so beautiful because when I tell you my aunt, she devoted so much to him in their marriage, but it's not like she didn't get back in return,
Mm,
you know. But it was like her love and devotion, like to actually see black love like that, and to actually see
mm,
what it means. We gonna love each other through thick and through thin.
mm,
That right there, it was like, okay, I get it. And even like when she tells the stories, or when they would tell us stories, or even like when my mom and her sisters, because he's my mom's brother. It's eight of them. And basically like how like when they grew up seeing her, and I guess like one time like before they got married, he called himself cheating, and she basically like let him know, like, I'm gonna tell you right now, like it wasn't no, okay, I forgive you this time, second time. No, she put her foot down and like she set her intentions, and he knew the type of woman he was marrying. And like she's like the epitome of like what it means to a man. I will build you a house and I will turn it into a home.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that right there, yeah.
Has your family, I know a lot of authors tell me that many of their family members are, but has your family read any of your work and I try to identify themselves or try to figure out who you were writing about in your books?
Hmm. Yeah, so my mom, she reads them. It was hard for her to read. She's still reading London's book, and she said it was just hard for her because she knew the people that, those circumstances happened to. So it's taken her a long time to get. But once she's got past it took her a while to get past the prologue, and I understand. I didn't realize how heavy that prologue was until I read it myself. I was like, ooh, that was a lot. But she reads them, and then like she skips over like the intimate things because she's like, I don't want to know you like that. And I got aunts who reads my work. They love it. I have one aunt, like she don't read my work no more because again the intimate scenes. But I'm like, and it goes like to the church folk, and I'm not saying all church folk, but we know the ones who like to say, oh, you can't do that. And I'm like, okay, was your life ever squeaky clean? Like I don't see you
Okay,
casting no songs.
that part.
I don't see you casting no stones. And it's just like, I'm like, okay, I know your past. Your sisters and you don't told me your past. And it's like,
Mm.
but you cringe at like, like, especially when I have conversations like with our cousins and, it's the holidays and we sitting around the table and we just talking about life. And you have sometimes a judgmental older folks and they
Of
just like, oh,
course.
you shouldn't do that. And
Hmm.
my cousins now they're like, okay, but did you not do that? And look at you now. So why wouldn't my journey
That part.
be any different?
That part.
Yeah, it's called life.
That
You
part.
live.
Acknowledging that who you were is not who you are. And it
Right.
helps other people to give them hope and courage. You're not who you are. Your past does not determine your future.
Exactly. And I'm like, okay, how are we supposed to meet people if we're supposed to be perfect? I don't want to meet a perfect Christian because then I know my life is not perfect. So how can I relate to you? How can
Exactly.
we have conversations if your life is so perfect? Like, no. That's why I love giving my characters heavy flaws and just circumstances that sometimes make you clutch your pearls and you have to cry a little bit, but it's relatable to somebody else. I'm showing you the most gritty. I showed you the most gritty with London. That homegirl was with London and Coco. I showed you the most gritty. With Casey in the middle and they're growing up, I showed you the most
You
gritty because this
sure
is what it
did.
turned out
You
to be.
sure did.
So I don't want to give perfect characters because even my life isn't perfect. Like God is still working on me even after all this. So that's why I put a lot of spiritual in it, but also a lot of things that are very relatable because it's like ain't nobody out here perfect, but I know the God I serve.
Mm.
So
Whew. So it's been almost 60 minutes, but and I want to respect your time. We're actually recording this on a Saturday, y'all. So I definitely want to say thank you. I so appreciate you taking the time to join. Is this the first discussion since
yeah.
okay. I'm honored. Um
Yeah.
so there's that, right? There's also tell us where can other than Indie Love, I know you're joining us in Indie Love, but where else do you plan on being for 2023?
Actually, Indie Love is only my only book event that I'm doing next year. Um, I kind of want to put my own together, kind of celebrate my 5 years because it'll be 5 years since I've been published in January. Yeah, no, thank you.
Make
But
sure
I really want
BSB get
to.
that invite because we coming,
Oh,
we
you
coming, we
listen,
coming.
y'all coming. I kind of want to do like a nice like weekend thing to just celebrate because I take great pride in where God first started me out to where I am now. And 5 years in this game, still level headed in this game. And I know the many times that I really wanted to give up. And I just want to celebrate. So, yeah, I've been praying about that.
Congratulations.
So
But
I'm hopefully putting it together, like a little celebration next year. So.
that is awesome.
But yeah, any love,
Congratulations.
that's where y'all can catch me. Thank you.
I'm looking forward to it. I know you are on all social media platforms.
Yeah.
Um, in addition to that, the paperbacks. I know you and I talked about it, but tell the readers, when will you have paperbacks available?
um, yeah, I know. Probably not this year. I probably won't do. I don't know. I can't say that because I'm having London's book format for paperback now. So I may do like an end of the year sale and have everything listed. But I know definitely probably around my birthday in March because again I'm celebrating the 5 years. So um, I know I have one in March and then I have Indie Love in June. So, but definitely in March. Definitely in March if I don't do the one this year, but definitely in March.
So we will see you in Atlanta
Yes, I'll be in Atlanta.
in June, and I am so looking forward to it. I know you told us at the end of London's book, we can expect Dove and Quest stories soon.
Mhm.
What we looking like? How soon? Look,
Um,
I know the rule. I know the rule is you don't give dates, but are we looking summerish?
no, okay, so my plan, and this is one of those, you tell God your plan, He
Uh-huh.
gonna laugh at you. So I wanted to release Dove and Quest in January because that would literally be my 5 year mark. And I feel like that book would be perfect because again my writing has evolved and what I want to do with the story. That's like the perfect time for me to release. It's 5 years. This is the evolution of Chelsea. I want to release it in January. So I'm going to continue to say that because God, I don't want you to change it
Now you
to
remember
something
that's
else.
when we really got comfortable and familiar with Coco Moore and Dre's story in
Yes,
January.
in January. So I'm hoping I
Yeah.
can continue.
And I'm thinking about
So
that because I see the fireworks, right? The champagne glasses and that was
yes,
just a little novella that girl, and I knew I needed more. Because
listen,
there was
that
a lot
November
of
kickstarted
audacity
a
up in there.
whole. People thought their story was gonna be so sweet. I thought their
Baby,
story was
we
gonna
were
be
not
sweet.
ready for that. Coco's
Um,
story was like, what?
I,
Them
I
scandalous
still think
folks.
I'm like, Lord, what was we thinking when we created that book? Like, I'm still like, where did I get those ideas? Like, it just, yeah.
That is the beauty of your and basically even more so that level of imagination and creativity that you have that
Mhm.
has your readers like, okay, what's next? What's next? What's next? So you can find more of Chelsea's work on Amazon. Of course, we will make sure we include the link, but she has a Facebook group with her readers and she's very active with her readers. She always shouts out to her girls um, in Love on the Low. Also, like I said, she's on a social media platform, but Chelsea, oh my God, y'all, if you have not gotten into her catalog, you missing out. You missing out. So please be sure to check her out. Do you have any words you want to leave us with, Chelsea?
I want to thank everybody who has supported me, especially you guys, you ladies. You and Allegra have supported me like literally from the first time like y'all have ever picked up one of my books, and I am super super grateful. And I want to thank everybody for the love that I've gotten from London. Like it has been overwhelming, but like a good overwhelming to like I said, like I'm just shocked and speechless, like how it's resonated with so many different women, like literally from all walks of life. And I'm truly, truly grateful for that. And I just thank you guys for rocking with me.
Thank you again for joining us. And thank you guys for sticking out this video to the end. Please like, share, leave comments, let us know what you think, and let us know who you want to see next. Thank you for tuning in.